One of the many things that's happened this year is I started drinking tea instead of coffee. Not for any health reasons, because tea is not particularly healthy either, but because I can't make a good cup of coffee to save my fucking life. So, hello. I'm pretty good at consistently not planning these things out. I feel that the benefits outweigh my fumbling at the start. But this year is really going to be kind of a summation from 2020 to now, which is early 2024. In three parts. I promised I would write it down before I started, but I haven't. The first bit is about Ava. The second bit is about my all-time low mental health moment from a few months ago. And the third part is about tomorrow and what comes next. Tomorrow metaphorically, because I can't be subtle in these fucking things. Quick aside, I don't. It's hard to tell. I recently did a podcast with Noam Kroll, and by the time this comes out, it might already be up. I have an article coming out on No Film School, and I can't tell if it's extremely up my own ass to pretend that everyone who listened or watched or listened to or read any of those two things is going to be here. But just in case you are, I'm extremely honest. I overshare on the internet, and I have a habit of cursing a lot. So if that bothers you, please remove yourselves now, so as I don't offend you. So yeah, part one, Ava. Ava is the film that I've been writing since 2019. The initial thought was it's my wife's book that she handed off to me. She was never able to really finish it, wanted to move on, and said, here, if you like it, take it and run with it. I did like it. I liked it quite a bit. And what I decided to do was adapt it wholesale into kind of a different beast, which is what the film Ava became. We're not going to go over the making of it. If you care about that, there's plenty that I've talked about that. We're going to skip to the end, which is about March of last year, March 2023. Around that time, I met a man named Santo Marabella, who was instrumental in getting Ava over the finish line. Because for the first time in any of my films, I suddenly had a deadline outside of my own preferences, a real deadline, I should say, which was great. And we had a screening in July of 23 for about 30 people. They all seemed to like it, more or less. And we were accepted into the Reading Film Fest, which was happening in October. I had from July 15th or so to October 4th to hand in the final movie. The one that was shown at the screener was held together with duct tape, and I needed to go back in and basically redo the whole movie. And also, we hadn't done the score yet at that point. So it was a very pressed couple of months, 70 or 80 something days, and through that time, I had my first audio hallucination, which was fun. We'll talk about that in a bit. I lost 20 pounds, and I didn't sleep much at all. And it really took a toll on me physically. The audio hallucination was, I had a lot of thoughts buzzing in my head at once. I'm not sure how everyone else does this. Sometimes they're voices, sometimes they're not. It's more like just vibes, like an angry bee's nest of vibes and thoughts that don't have to be described necessarily in words, because they're feelings and they come across much quicker. So there's a million of those going around. I'm thinking about how I have to mix this scene and master that scene and grade this scene, and that scene's too dark, or whatever else I'm thinking of. And a woman's voice chimes in and says, I think we should, and then stops cold. And that shut my entire brain up, because I can imitate other people's voices. I can hear like Robin Williams or whatever, name your favorite person. I can picture their voice in my head. But the voices in my head, so to speak, they don't sound like anybody else. They sound like me if they sound like anybody. This was someone else, and I was very, very uncomfortable with that, because it's not fun to have someone else's voice in your head. She never came back, never done anything since. That was sometime in September. That was really my indication, like, oh shit, this is not going well. I finished the movie, handed it in October 4th, and Marcia, who was working there, who's a great, said, thank you so much, go get some sleep. So I went to GameStop, bought Starfield, took my brother's Xbox, and locked myself up actually right here on this computer monitor, which I'm not sure if you can see, and played Starfield for 3 weeks. My only goal in life ever has been to make a movie. And maybe, the stretch goal of that would be maybe I can put it out in theater. I've never entertained seriously the thought of directing Transformers 12 or anything like that, or anything mass market. Not because I don't want to, but because it's very hard, and I don't like cities, and I don't like the sun, so I'm never going to LA, and there's kind of a realism there to defend myself from getting hurt, which is a whole separate thing we'll worry about later. This premiere went almost unbelievably great. We sold out, which was awesome. I did not get paid for that, but it was, the festival was putting it on. I don't care, I don't want the money. We sold out a 125 seat theater, so it wasn't the biggest audience in the world, but it's 125 more people than I've ever seen watching my movie at the same time. And in the audience was my wife, all of my closest friends, all 4 of them, 2 teachers from high school, a lot of strangers, and my ex-girlfriend in the audience, who, up until a few weeks earlier, I had been very afraid that she hated me because I remember how I was. I wasn't abusive or anything. I was just really pathetic during the breakup, and she doesn't deserve that. So I figured she must at least not love the idea of hanging out with me. Until I pulled up to her parents' house to give them invitations and saw her sitting on the front lawn, and had to say hello. And luckily she didn't hate me, so that's great. So you had this, I had this moment of, oh my God, it's everyone in my life is here. This is amazing. I did a Q&A afterward. People cried during the movie, which was great. And then I was able to just go enjoy the festival. I got to go, I had a free pass. I'm actually wearing the shirt. I got a t-shirt and I got a free pass to go watch whatever I want for the next 2 days. Watched Wizard of Oz on the big screen, watched a bunch of stuff. And then Monday morning I went back to work. And at that point I was under the impression that it was kind of the standard, a lot of my friends like music, so they call it like the post-concert depression. I figured it was that. Then 2 months passed and it was still there. And I realized that thing of achieving your life's goal, for me it wasn't, this is great, on to the next thing. It was, my life is over, I don't have anything left. And also all the things emotionally and trauma related that I had been burying with my work were still there and very much needed to be addressed. January of 24, as I'm heatedly rolling into Left Unsaid. Left Unsaid is the next thing I'm doing. I wanted to shoot it this summer. Santo and another man, Aaron Leibowitz, independent of one another, recommended I wait a year. For good reasons. It was, Ava's going to do its festival run this year. If we want to raise a budget, probably good to let it run its course. Get those laurels if we can, meet some people if we can. And worst case, we're back where we are now, which is ready to go. So, you can't lose. And I agreed. But it did mean that now my plan for the year was completely gone. Then came February 2nd, I was laid off. Prior to being laid off, I had a pretty bad mental health day. I was very scared, and I kept saying I don't want to die. That might flag on YouTube, whatever. Because I don't, but I was really having issues figuring out how to deal with my emotions. When I got laid off, the layoff wasn't the bad part. Though layoffs are confusing, because I've been fired as a kid, and I've quit jobs both responsibly and irresponsibly in my life. At least when you're fired, they're like, you suck, get out. this was like, you're great, you did a great job, you have to leave now, we can't afford you, goodbye. And that was very strange. But the part that kind of got me the most was now I have a lot of free time again. This is not the headspace you want to be in when you have a lot of free time. And 2 weeks later, I had my first, most vivid panic attack, which was not fun. Luckily, my friend was here. They helped me through it with 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, etc., to kind of ground me. And the next day, I called a doctor. I don't have a general practitioner. I'm American and 27, and my parents aren't loaded, so we don't do that here. But I finally reached out, and I have an appointment set up for the end of May. So, woo. In the interim, my brother's girlfriend suggested a therapist who spoke with me for a bit, recommended I get medicated, and I reached out to a nurse practitioner. Literally right now, I just got an email before this video started. My prescription is ready. It's Strattera. I had taken an Adderall at my friend's house, a 5 milligram dose. I'm 6'3", 230, so I wasn't afraid of overdosing. Don't even know what that means for Adderall. But I am the kind of person that doesn't even take an Advil if they don't have to, so for me to say yes to something like that was pretty interesting. And that was the day I learned that the term brain fog is not a day of particular haziness. It is my default state of being and has been my entire life, which was great to find out, and almost overwhelmingly sad. I have missed so much of my life, and even I'm not sure if it's gotten better or worse as I've gotten older, but I know there are videos on YouTube of me losing what I'm talking about as I talk about it. It's been my entire life, and now hopefully it won't be. I'll find out later today, or 4 weeks from today, or whatever the time period is. I'll be starting therapy soon, which I think is needed. I'm very good at talking about my feelings, but I still need to feel them, and that's part of my problem is I don't do that. The metaphor I've used is like an oil rig. There's usually a fire going at the top to burn off the excess oil. I'm really good at logic bombing my problems, so if I'm upset because someone has something I don't, I can usually really quickly say like, well, you don't even want what they have. You just want, maybe you want the success, maybe, or whatever, petty jealousies it might be, but you don't actually want their life, so cut it. And that usually works. But what I've realized is it kind of just accumulates the gasoline or the oil or whatever metaphor we're using. And that means that when something does affect me, when a spark is lit, oh my God, are the reactions really, really big. They're not dangerous to other people. I don't take it out on other people. I take it out on myself. And I cry really hard for no reason. No real reason. No definable trigger. No real reason for why I'm doing this. So yeah, going to a therapist will help, hopefully. And then came the realization that I use my movies to bury myself in a different, maybe not reality, but a project. I use the project to avoid dealing with my real shit. And now that I don't have that option, there's 20 years or so of dealing to do. And it's really hard. It's really hard. It's really hard to deal with your own mental health because it doesn't fucking go away. Around the time that Ava came out, Darius Britt, D for Darius, put out a post on Instagram saying he wanted to interview some filmmakers. This was right as Ava was happening, so I was kind of riding a high. I reached out, said hello, great. I didn't get anything back, and I didn't really care about it. I mean, I'm sure his DMs were full. But sometime in February, I think, he reached out, and we spoke for about an hour, and I got a lot off my chest to a complete stranger. But he's someone I've followed since before Unsound came out, when it was, I believe I showed up before the Seafood Tester film, but I'm not sure. He was really nice. He is someone who has no idea who I am, which is helpful in terms of getting his perspective on things. And he wasn't going to tell me how to live my life, but he did suggest that, you know, my main problem seems to be making money with video, since I don't make money the way I want to. How can he sort of assist in that way? And he gave me some good advice, and I'm enacting that advice, and it's working so far. Shortly after that, as I'm at home and post-panic attack, looking for jobs, I reached out to Noam Kroll. And Noam was somebody that I'd listened to since 21 when I got a job at Amazon and suddenly needed a podcast to play in my ears all day. And I really liked his stuff, and I thought that, you know, my film was made for $200, maybe his audience would like it. Didn't really expect him to get back to me. I knew that he was busy. I knew he had stuff going on. Surprised he did, which was awesome. We spoke for about an hour. The almost unedited, which is pretty cool, podcast is up on his thing now, Show Don't Tell. If you're here and you don't know about that podcast, I'd be shocked. But just in case, it's called Show Don't Tell by Noam Kroll. And that helped a little bit because it got me to talk about my movie and in a way that was more structured and not just me talking to myself in my basement with my camera sitting in front of me. And then the third person I talked to was in the first week of unemployment, while I was looking for jobs, I reached out to a photographer named Don Carrick. He was one of 12 or 15 people I called that week. Only one who replied, as is law. And my voicemail was really just, "Hi, I'm Marty, I'm a photographer, I'm looking for work. If you need an assistant, you need some help, let me know." He told me the truth, which is, you know, I can't hire you, but you want to come into the office and talk? You want to come to my studio and talk? You want to, I'm moving in a few weeks, would you like to help me move some boxes? I said, sure. Don talked with me, he asked me what I wanted from my life. I said, I want to be a filmmaker. He said, great, what's your fallback? And I said, I'd really like to be a photographer, that'd be nice. Because I like photography, turns out. And he said, great. And that was, you know, that surmises the hour and a half we spoke for. Shortly thereafter, he did my headshots, which are great. He was on my list to do headshots. I told him this when we met. The reason I know about him is because he's a photographer, he's a headshot photographer, and I wanted to get my headshots done this year because Ava is hopefully going to be in film festivals, and I'd like a nice picture of myself to put out to those people. He did them for free, which was really, really helpful. And then later on, he called me and said, hey, I reached out to this person who's looking for a videographer. I put your name and someone else's, may not come to you, but her name is Maureen. If she reaches out to you, you know, keep an eye on your phone. I said, great, thank you. Fast forward, I got the job, and I got paid $1,000 for 2 hours of work, which sounds really cool. It's not. But I went home with this money. I used $700 for my bills, which is my half of the bills with my wife, and I used the $300 to buy Capture One. Capture One is a photo editing software. I used to use Lightroom, but Lightroom is $15 to $20 for the rest of your life, every month. And every time I see, and my cat's doing something funny, every time I would see that money come out in a month where I hadn't worked, it would just be I'm throwing more money into the fucking fire. So I bought Capture One, which allowed me to, all right, I've got the photo editing software. Maybe I should reach out to some people, slowly but surely, to go on a shoot. A week later, I had a meeting with someone whose wedding I'm shooting in the summer, and my contract says that I'm owed a deposit at that point, but I hadn't brought the contract, and I also, this is a friend. This is somebody who they're the parent of someone close to me, so I didn't want to be too forward. I have problems charging people, despite the fact that they're hiring me. They know they're gonna. I understand it doesn't make sense, but I have problems charging people. And at the end of it, they wrote me the check for the deposit, and I had enough money in my hand that I didn't expect to have that morning to go buy a camera, which is what I'm shooting on now, the A7 III. So spoiler, I did it. But I called my wife first and said, they just gave me this money. If I go to Best Buy, I can get this new camera. She asked me, why do you need a new camera? Genuinely, not loaded, but answer the question. My original A7R is a beautiful camera that is way too slow for a wedding. In the time it takes me to autofocus, I may or may not have missed the kiss, and at which point I am fucked. On top of that, it's terrible in low light. I just shot a live event. Really rough. Even at 1.8, it was really rough. And everything that was, relatively well exposed was extremely out of focus or soft in some way. The A7 III is much faster. It's more affordable. It's more affordable than the camera that I wanted, which is the A7R IV, but that's $4,000 more or less. The A7 III that I'm shooting on was $1,699. So I did it. I bought the camera. I have new camera, new software. I'm selling the previous one on eBay. Selling more random shit around my house on eBay. And putting out more photography stuff, because being laid off and talking to these professionals who entertained me for the time that they had me made me realize that maybe this is what I want. And also, the reason I stopped is because I got the W-2 job, and that feels very secure. Getting laid off is a great way to remind you that, hey, it's actually not that secure. It's just, I guess, more predictable. You know what you're getting paid. If you get paid next week, you know what the number is going to be. Whereas freelancing is terrifying because you don't know if you're getting paid, period. I started working more on the photo business, dove back into that. I'm taking photography seriously. I shot something yesterday that I got out the same day. There's a lot there that is hopefully going to work out in the long run, but it takes time, and I'm aware that if 2024 is a fictitiously good year, I still won't be able to rely on my freelancing business to pay my bills at all. There's also every chance that it won't be that amazing. So I have to get a job. I have to get a job, which is what I've been trying to do for 3 fucking months now. I don't know, the economy sucks, I guess. People have been saying that since I was an infant. The economy seems to have never ever been good since I've been alive, minimum. But even in, you look at the thing, it's like, oh, in the 90s we had a surplus budget for the first time in so many decades. People from the 90s were bitching uncontrollably about the government and about inflation and about the economy. It never stops. It's always bad. But since I'm alive now, and since this is the decade I care about because I'm in it, I guess the economy sucks. Maybe I'm just awful at applying for jobs, but I have not had a fucking nibble. But that's fine. It'll work out. It always does. It's just very scary being in the middle of it not working out. So part 3 is about tomorrow. I don't know how my perception of time stacks up against everyone else's. It's not really a question you can ask people. But I know for me, I don't really have a difference in my mindset from when I was 9, 15, 20, 25, whatever I am now. It's kind of just continuous. I've been pretty consistent since the jump. I just learn more. So for me, I have trouble keeping track of the week. I don't know what day it is right now. I don't know what day it is right now. And that doesn't usually bother me, but it means that I have trouble setting goals because I have trouble picturing 6 months from now as a separate event from now or 6 months ago. But this year has been really informative. The year meaning from March of 23 to now has been really informative in giving me a perspective on time. From March to October, which is just about 6 months, a little over 6 months of 23, I went from having a movie that it was in the roughest state you can imagine to a premiere with however many people I said was there and all that great stuff. It is now a little over 6 months since the premiere. I'm unemployed, I'm going to therapy, I'm medicated almost, and that is not something I could have put on my bingo card in October. In October is not something I could have put on my bingo card in March, and so on and so forth. So today is April something. I turn 28 in a couple days. And 6 months from today, or from tomorrow, from whatever it is, whenever October rolls around, it'll be a year since Ava, and I may or may not have already started going to other film festivals for it. And I'll be doing my photography business, and I'll keep up with my workout, which I'm not talking about on this. And I don't know where it'll be. I don't know if it'll be any good. Maybe I'll be in a worse spot, maybe I'll be in a better spot, but I think it's important for me to define my life a little bit. I am a filmmaker now. I have a t-shirt that says it. I am a filmmaker now. I've made my movie, I've made my feature, I've done all the things that I'd ever imagined doing. What's next, and what does that mean for me? At the moment, I'm writing a play. It is called Olam Shaba, which is a Hebrew term for the world that comes after, or the world that comes next. It's kind of a term for heaven, as far as I understand it, but not explicitly. And the title kind of accidentally wormed itself into my brain because I have to define what is my world after Ava. What does that look like? In a little over a year, I'll be in Left Unsaid. That'll be nice, but for now, I'm very much in kind of an uncharted world for me of defining what I want as a person outside of filmmaking. It's a complicated process. I don't know the answer. It challenges a lot about me, which is not always fun. To rephrase that, it's never fucking fun to challenge your core beliefs or what you believe about yourself. But I think it's necessary, because if I don't go through the pain now, the pain will show up and demand I go through it at that point. I'd rather not do it, but I think if I have to do it, I'd rather do it all at once. Just, all right, fuck it, throw it on the pile, we'll get it done. And that's what I'm hoping this year and ongoing, because it's not just a year thing, but I'm hoping that 28 to 30 is hopefully a time further healing. Maybe I'll find out who Marty actually is, since I don't have a great concept of myself. I'm not sure. I'm hoping for the best, literally preparing for the worst, but we'll see. And you'll get another video like this in a year or so. Yeah, I famously don't know how to end these things. There's a song that I'm listening to a lot recently, Silver Springs by Fleetwood Mac. That's probably playing now. Goodbye. Time cast its spell on